Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another episode of America in Black and White, where we discuss the issues that are repressing and causing problems in the underserved African American communities. Tonight, we have a very special guest. We have a guest that's running for the California State Assembly, Mr. Andre Sandford. Let me tell you guys a little bit about Mr. Sandford. Andre is originally from Detroit, Michigan. He moved to Jacksonville, Alabama to attend Jacksonville State University, where he earned his undergraduate and graduate degrees in behavior science. With over 9 years of experience in child welfare, mental health, and housing leadership, Andre is currently serving as the Housing and Homeless Prevention Program Manager for MNC Inspiring Success. He is also a proud member of Phi Beta Sigma, an organization that engages in community service events in Oakland, California. Andre is happily married to his wife, Victoria Sandford, and they have a son named Omar Sandford. Andre's decision to run for California State Assembly District 18 was sparked by a traumatic event. His family was robbed at gunpoint in front of their apartment. His platform is focused on four key issues: safety, housing, education, and reparations. Andre is the first third-party candidate in California history to move to the general election, making his candidacy truly a historic moment. What you guys also need to know about Mr. Sandford is Mr. Sandford being one of the youngest people to also run for the California State Assembly is a person that's actually doing an enormous amount of things, more than just within the community, but he's trying to show that leadership to let the people know that he is somebody that they should be able to follow. Um, he's leading by example by doing the things that really make him as best as he could possibly be. And I think this platform is one that's going to connect him with more people than he probably could ever imagine, because there's not only just people in his district, but people around the country that are going to be looking at this political season and some of the candidates that are running. As we have some of those candidates on the show, those are the people that are going to be making a really, really serious difference in their communities. So just as we are, getting through and we are getting ready for this show, I just thought it was just really a very important thing to make sure that you all know who this wonderful candidate is. And ladies and gentlemen, I introduce you all to Mr. Andre Sandford. Hello, Andre. How are you?
I'm doing good, Charles. Thank you
Okay.
for
Are you
inviting me
on
here
a?
tonight.
Yeah, it looks like. Do you have a filter or something? Are you looking kind of dark, where we're seeing just a shadow of you?
1 second. Let me
There
brighten
you
up the
go.
light.
Now
One
I
second.
can see you.
There we go.
There you go.
Can you see me now?
So, yes, sir. We can see you. How are you today?
I'm doing pretty well. Doing pretty well. Trying to just continue to run this campaign. It's a gauntlet. Every day is important, and so I'm just really just trying to stay focused on the campaign, knocking on doors, talking to business owners, talking to community groups, unions, just really be involved in all three cities of my district.
So, before we get started, can you tell us what actually interested you to the point that, I mean, because I read in your bio about the robbery that your family experienced at gunpoint in front of their apartment. But is there anything else other than that that inspired you to actually run for this seat in the California Assembly?
Yeah. Well, my family always talked about politics. So I always was interested into it. Always been into leadership roles. And so it just was a no brainer after that happened that, hey, you know, I should join. I always looked at myself as a leader. In that aspect, when that happened, it just triggered me to say, "Hey, I want to put my name in a hat." And so here we are.
Yeah, and so also I noticed also in your bio it says that you are a third party candidate. So as an independent, are there not many out there in California?
Um, I believe there's a few of us in California that is third party candidates. So I'm a part of the American Independent Party. You have some other candidates that's in part of other third party parties, um, Libertarians, the Green Party. Uh, there's a few other parties that's a little smaller in California, but every state has third party candidates, and I'm a part of the American Independent Party, and I'm the first candidate to ever win and go on to the general election. So it's a great feat.
So is the American Independent Party, is that just a party that's only out there in California? Because I think this is my first time ever hearing of that.
Yeah, so it's ironic that when I first applied to register for um, candidacy, I just thought that the independent party was just independent was me, you independent. So I dove into the independent party. At first, I couldn't step back from it. And so it was ironic at the time that I joined that the party was doing some revamping with its alignment as far as not being a segregated party. Um, they were not trying to affiliate with any individuals that was racist, and they was just moving away from that old party mindset and just allowing for themselves to be a true independent party, which hence that you see that Robert F. Kennedy got the endorsement. He's a part of our party here in California, and so I align with him as well, and I align with the party.
Okay, so with that being your inspiration, can you tell us what specific changes do you hope to bring to your community?
Yeah. First, I want to make a community safe for everybody. I believe that, unfortunately, in our community, um, it has been a lot of crime, right? And so in my district, District 18, which is Alameda, Emeryville, and Oakland, we have two of the three that's top ranked in the top three dangerous cities in the state of California, right? So I want to make sure that we create a plan, which I have a plan. An assembly bill I will try to roll out. Well, I will roll out once I'm elected, so we can make it safe for everyone, right? And so within my plan, the first thing I'm tackling is sentencing. I want to make sure that sentencing is fair across the board. Honestly, I don't believe with rehabilitation, we don't need anyone that's in prison their first sentence longer than 15 years, right? If we truly rehabilitating someone, we don't need individuals to um, we don't need individuals that's an hour away from their family. Family need to be able to have parenting time, so we won't continue to have that cycle with children going into prisons. The standard of living in prison should be the same quality or better than where they at home, right? Because most people that go into prisons, we already know they come from low income homes, low income environments. So we shouldn't have someone going to urban get or a hyper ghetto, sorry, into a concentration camp, right? We want to rehabilitate them so they should have the standard of living. And also, all individuals that's in receiving rehabilitation should have employment. And with that employment, they will first be able to save money. Second, so when they return back into the community, they can obtain a house, they can take a car so they won't reoffend. The second thing they would do was pay child support, right? A lot of families are hurt with that. Fathers and mothers being, we want them to be able to send money back home to their families, um, and really be able to support. And the third thing, to be able to pay for their, we $75 billion in debt. Um, and we need to be cutting our deficit. And I believe that's a great way to be able to cut our deficit by ensuring that inmates contribute to my way. 1 second. Let me put
Wow. Okay.
my computer on the charger. I thought my computer was charged earlier. Sorry. Technical difficulties. 1 second. Sorry about that.
No problem. No problem. So I was listening to some of those things that you were talking about, especially for people in prison for 15 years and the justice system out there. So can you tell our audience? I mean, like basically, is it the California correctional facilities, or they're like doing things a little bit over the top or a little extra when it comes to prisoners compared to other states, or are they just kind of like running on its own thing because it's basically like a whole nother country out there?
Well, California used to have the highest population in incarceration around like 10 years ago. They have changed with a lot of policies, and it drastically reduced, right? So we are not in the top 10 no more as far as incarceration. We have a lot of vocational trainings uh, inside of our rehabilitation centers. So they have been taking the steps to make our incarceration a lot better. I think um, the issue is right now we've been seeing an uptick in crime in the state of California over the last 4 to 5 years, right? We have a proposition called Prop 47, and it allows individual to um, rob or commit thefts up to $950 without it being a felony, right? And so with those type of policies, it's allowing for individuals to, get a slap on the wrist. I believe that we do need to show support, right, with individuals, especially coming from low income families, and we want to make sure that they come back into their community and contribute. But we have to, one, ensure that they are held accountable, fair sentencing, not long sentencing, and ensure that our communities are safe. Right now, the community don't feel safe. Since then, we have some of the highest property theft, the highest crime in America, and the only way for us to be able to reduce that is for us to revamp it. It's coming, and if we're not involved in it, it's going to be detrimental to a lot of people, and we're going to see higher incarceration rates, and they're going to fill up those prisons once again.
That's interesting. I think that's a really great one of you. That's a great issue to address because I think especially since you guys were able to come down with the incarceration rates in general. I mean, I'm just also wondering like, what does that look like when it comes to African American men and women? As far as the jail system and the correction system goes there, are there like an enormous amount of them there? Are they overpopulated with that one ethnicity like most of the country?
I would say that black and brown people. If you want to be specific, you'll see an uptick of black people inside of the state population incarceration. But we've been doing a great job with a lot of DAs across the state to be able to reduce that. You'd have seen a few prisons actually close down in the state of California. So those numbers are going down. But we still see an overwhelming a population of Black people inside of these incarceration, and honestly, it's just reflecting into the community, right? The community, we are not, making sure that we are taking the necessary steps inside of our community, which goes into my economic development, right? We have to make sure that our economic development plan is in place, right? One of the things that we are seeing right now across the state, but especially inside of our district, with the state, we have a $75 billion deficit that our governor just revised the budget again, and we are, trying to have some cuts to make sure that we don't increase taxes, right? Also, and that's affecting the cities, that's affecting the districts, that's affecting non-for-profits, that's affecting businesses, which ultimately affects individuals and how they're going to their morale into the community, right? If they don't have a check, they're going to try to obtain it any way they can, right? And so we need to have a robust, economic development plan to ensure that individuals are at work. We got the state of California has the largest unemployment rate in the country. We have to make sure that people are getting to work. And it haven't been happening in my district, right? We've been seeing in Silicon Valley. We've been seeing in the last year over 30 businesses, Fortune 1,000 businesses have left to Texas and other states in the country. We need to make sure that those businesses feel that they are important. We need to give tax breaks. My plan is to get rid of the insurance tax break. We have two taxes that the states have to that states have to pay, and I want to make sure that we get rid of that we are getting rid of, or at least slashing those the ETT taxes, right? That takes in 6.5% up to $7,000. So that's a huge amount of money. If you got 25, 50, 100 employees, some of these Silicon Valleys have 2,000 employees. They getting tax breaks and taxes. Texas killing us, right? And so we need to continue to make it an entrepreneur state. In the side of just the city of Oakland, in the last 3 years, 30 businesses had left. We have 44,000 business. Now we only have 30 business. And with that, we have $35 million that we haven't collected in taxes. And we have a deficit in Oakland of 177,000. So my plan is to create a revolving loan, go into these major businesses. We got Clorox, we got Pixel, all within our district, and other major businesses and banks. We got Chase right across the bay over there in San Francisco. We need to partner with these corporations, have them pour funds into a revolving loan. The loan might be a little higher, but we need to restrict the access, the credit score for these loans, so businesses can qualify for these revolving business loans, so we can be able to ensure that these businesses don't go out of business, these businesses don't leave the state, and that we ensure that they stay here another 10, 20, 30 years.
How do your personal values align with the needs of your district, and how will you prioritize them if elected?
Yeah, so my personal values is family first. I love my family. I have a wife and one son and one on the way, another son on the way. So I really pride myself on family values. I had a strong granddad, a grandmother, a strong father and mother, and they really poured that into me to make sure that one, I'm taking care of my family, the household, that I'm working, that I'm making sure that the bills are paid, and making sure that we are, being a contributor to the community, right? We, taking care of our grass, we taking care of our homes first, and ensuring that we brighten up the community by helping others in the neighborhood, right? And so those are all my values. And then I'm definitely trying to pour that into this community. The love that I have for my family, I have for the community, and I just want to make sure that everyone in the community has those values and see that being reflected in our community.
Well, I tell you, I could just imagine by being in an area, especially if it's more underserved than others, that resources have got to be short. And if I'm not mistaken, I think I remember hearing you saying something about keeping businesses there in those in your district, in your communities, and so forth. Can you tell me, have you had you had the opportunity yet to speak with any of these business owners or businesses to tell them about your platform, what you're doing, and how you need them to stay and to grow?
Yes, definitely, definitely. I've been going out to all the businesses in District 18 out of Walk the Beat in the primary in the general election, and they've been telling me exactly what how they feel. Right. I had one business owner. They informed me of the break-ins that other businesses has been experiencing. They also been informing me of their struggle with obtaining loans right in the community and how valuable that is, right? Another issue is some of these commercial properties, rent is too high, right? They can't afford it, and in order for them to lower, some of the commercial properties have lowered their prices on their rent. Ultimately, they can't go too far on their rent because if they do, they can be in forbearance of their actual loan, right? Because the value of their rent um, ensures the amount of the property, right? And so, trying to create an assembly bill um, that allows for commercial properties to reduce some of their rent without infringing on their mortgage loans is really key into making sure that a lot of these businesses stay afloat. And then public safety is real concern. A lot of these businesses can't stay open to 6 o'clock. Hence, where Oakland have done that, and they've seen a decrease in some crime, but death is still up. A lot of these businesses are scared to even go out. You stay open past 6 o'clock. Soon as they feel that it's about to start turning dark, they started to wrap it up, and that's affecting their bottom line. Right, that's affecting their everyday profits on how much they're going to earn per month.
Oh, well, I can definitely understand, um, the plight because, normally if you're in a community that they feel is undesirable, then most of these institutions, they want your money to invest in other things, but they can't give you money back to help you grow yourself. I mean, like, have most of the businesses that you spoke with had um, any glaring comments for most of these financial institutions?
Yeah, I know one business owner said they spoke on the phone. They told them to come down. Then, hey, when they got there, they was, oh well, this is not the correct place. Not allow for telling them that they don't qualify as far as their credit score. Um, and so a lot of these business owners there, is really struggling right with a lot of these financial institutions just to be able to support them with staying afloat. And so I believe creating a revolving loan, getting the banks, getting the Fortune 1000 companies, getting these major companies to really invest into the community, and then not only just invest with the revolving loan, but also creating a referral program with them, so to making sure that they shop within the district. Right, we just had Clorox, that's a Fortune 1000 business here in our district, and they just informed not too long ago their employees not to even go out and shop, not to go out and eat on lunch. Right, so that's affecting the bottom line on a lot of the restaurants downtown in our district. And so we need to really make sure, one, the public safety is really it is a main focus, right? And so one of the things I want to do is make sure that we, you know, lobby, once I get there, lobby for a state of emergency so we can get more officers until we completely hire and staff our police, because that defund the police really hindered our policing in our district. Um, and then two, that will help also bring some loans down to our district that some of the banks won't, provide to these small businesses.
So, can you elaborate on your stance regarding key issues such as healthcare, education, and environmental sustainability?
Okay. Can you say that? So you said healthcare?
Healthcare, education, and environmental sustainability.
Yeah, definitely. Um, District 18, the state of California, is really struggling right now as far as our healthcare plan, right? Um, we've seen it's 12 right now. We have 12 hospitals on the verge of closing. You know, that contribute to our Medicare, our felon Medi-Cal that we have here in California, and the reimbursement system that we have in California. A lot of our hospitals, they are not receiving that reimbursement, which they have to cover in some way, which resulting in their bottom line. They have to resort to either relocating states or closing down, and it's really affecting our rural area, and it really is marginalized black, brown, and women across the state of California, right? I definitely want to make sure we stick to the basics, right? With our budget, we have to really get really basic with our budget and the essential needs, right? And healthcare has to be one of those important action items that we cover, right? Making sure that we cover it 80, 90%, so we can keep our hospitals afloat. Education, right? And before I even go into education, having and assuring with our reimbursements being 80, 90%, the safety of the safety conditions for these doctors, for these nurses are put on the forefront, right? A lot of these hospitals employees are going on strike. Just in San Francisco, they're going on strike because of the unsafetyness within these hospitals. And we need to make sure if we are reimbursing you 80, 90%, then the standard of the hospital and the safety of the hospital needs to match that reimbursement. And I'm definitely want to stand for that. But we have to get back to the basics, fund the hospitals, fund the education. Our education system is failing right now. We are around 33, ranking 33 in the nation as far as education. We are seeing hundreds, if not thousands, of teachers, parent pros, janitors has been fired. Just here in District 18, we have 5 to 10 schools that's about to be closed and merged, which means that a lot of these students about to be having class sizes 30, 35, 40 students in the classrooms. Teachers, supporting students with IEPs in their classroom. It's really a struggle. My wife is a teacher out here in Oakland, and I know firsthand that a lot of these teachers don't have that support. And with these cuts, these budget cuts, it's really like we just felt I honestly feel like we are failing our children. And I'm the only candidate in this race that's willing to fight for our students, fight for these schools. We got Inglewood school district that they about to completely close down. It's ridiculous. We have these black schools, predominantly black schools, Inglewood, Oakland, Richmond, Vallejo. They all are oversight, and they don't have no control over their district. Taxes is out the roof, and it's ridiculous. And we have to have a candidate like myself is that going to come in to make sure that we properly fund with if the cost of inflation, right? We have to properly pay our teachers, and I'm planning about ensuring that if we cannot pay our teachers and we can't fund our teachers, to eliminate state taxes so our teachers can have a living wage. Our teachers can't afford to live in the state of California. Honestly, we don't even have the credentials. They looking into a lawsuit because we don't even have enough teachers that's credentialed in the state of California. It's ridiculous out here, and I plan to fight to make sure that the teachers have a living wage, that our students have small class sizes, and that we don't have oversight amongst our Black community school districts.
So let me just, I got a couple of follow-up questions for you on this topic, because um, one thing, well, first before we get to that, as far as the environmental sustainability, I mean, like, can you tell me what is your stance on that?
Yeah, definitely. Um, I believe that we have to have a robust plan, but we have to be able to measure it over time, right? Right now in California, gas is $5, $6 a gallon. It got up to high to $8 a gallon, right? I'm definitely want to make sure that we ensure that our environmental, as far as our oil rigs here in the state of California, are regulated, that we have the quality of gas, so that the our air is not being polluted, that the drinking water is safe. But also, we need to make sure that we have the oil rigs available so the gas can go down. It killing us at the plant. Also, I want to make sure that we are looking into all inventions and to all aspects to make sure that we can reduce these. To not reduce, I'm sorry, to transition into the future, right? Which is electric cars and hybrids, right? We have right in Georgia, we have a gentleman out there in Georgia that just created a method to be able to um, turn gas cars into electric cars, right? We need to be, tapping into him, ensuring that we have him out here, we making that transition as quickly as possible because people pockets is being hurt. I definitely want to protect our waters, our drinking waters system in California, and making it more accessible by building, building. We need to be able to collect these rain waters. We've been losing a lot of water. We had some of the most rain water in the history in California in the last 10 years, right? And we lost a lot of it, right? Because we don't have the infrastructure to be able to make sure we collect that water and make sure that we sustain that drinking water for the community. And we need to build. We need to build those infrastructures. We need to build these dams so we can make sure that we hold the water inside of our state, and not have to go and tap into other states outside of the state of California and employ people. We have the workers here. Let's employ them. Let's put them to work so we can be able to ensure that we have water and viable situation in the state of California.
Now, my follow up on is I'm going back. I'm going to work reverse with the environmental sustainability. The thing that surprised me more than anything is that with California and all the resources that are out there, I found it appalling, for one, that there was a water issue problem to where people couldn't use water or what didn't have access to water. And what I'm trying to understand, and I know that it happens in different regions of the country, but with California having to get water from Colorado, how could that possibly be that with the whole Pacific Ocean there, that you guys have nothing in place that could filter the water for the people to use?
Yeah. And so we have a couple filters that just rolled out, right? The state just approved the ability to be able to use toilet water, um, filter the toilet water and reuse it, and clean fresh water. Some people oppose it, some people is for it. We do have the ability to be able to abstract the salt out of the salt water out of the Pacific Ocean. I don't think that's a resource that people tend to want to jump in initially. But California has suffered a drought, right? We've been seeing some of the biggest droughts in California history. I remember going to Russian River in Marin County, and I mean the water levels were so low that in some parts we had to get out and walk, right? And if you ever see Russian River is a river that flows. It has a lot of water, but it was ridiculous, right? And so we have to do better by collecting the water and really protecting our environment, and making sure that we don't leave the imprint inside of our state. But we have to collect this water, right? And we have to be wise about how we utilize our water, right? We have a lot of farmers. California is the largest. It's the state that produced the largest amount of agriculture in our country, right? If you go to Central Valley, they producing corn, watermelon, strawberries, everything inside of Central Valley. They have dairy, cows, everything. It's amazing how much our farmers really work for our country and our state. And they need those resources. They need that water to be able to ensure that America is eating. And the only way we're able to do that is to build dams and then build streams so those streams can flow into the cities, and that we don't have to rely on other states to be able to provide water to our farmers, our citizens.
Well, what about the storms and the frequency and the in-depthness now of the storms that are impacting you guys out there on the Pacific Coast? I mean, like with I think if I'm not mistaken that there's been like this surge of earthquakes, and there's like a volcano somewhere over there that's erupted. Then there's all of a sudden these rainstorms that are causing these mudslides. That's, as you say, when the rain, I remember the rain was really, really bad out there, and they had
Yeah.
these mudslides and so forth. I mean, so are you and your team actually working with an actual plan that you want to introduce if elected to get into the assembly to work on those things?
Yes, definitely, definitely. Um, and so California, and I could just say personally, I've been out here 6 years. Since I've been in California, we haven't had that much rain in our district, right? And I know the whole state of California, but since I've been out here, we haven't had that much rain. I've probably seen it rain the first 4.5, 5 years, probably 4 or 5 times. That's how much rain it was. It probably like one full of rain a year, right? Like, and we were northern California, so imagine Southern California, right? And so a lot of places, a lot of cities was not ready for the rain that it came, the storms that came to these cities. But it really just put an eye opener into one, global warming and what we have to get prepared for. We had hurricanes. We since the 5 years I've been here, I mean, sorry, 6 years I've been here, I never saw a hurricane that came from Mexico into San Diego up to LA. I think a little bit of LA. I think it was like a tropical storm once it started hitting California. But it really just was an eye opener about global warming, what's ahead of us, and how we should prepare and how we should be ready, right? And so a lot of cities across the Pacific that's inland, that's not inland. I'm sorry, outland. That's off the coast. Is started to take those measures, starting to work with emergency planners, really started to work with the federal government, and luckily the federal government came in and in the time to make inflict state of the emergencies to be able to give them the access and resources and funding they need to be able to rebuild effectively. So I'm planning on to ensure that I continue that effort, continue to work with cities on a local level, right? And that's what we have to do as state officials. I think the government sometimes could be the state government can not really extend their reach and really support these cities, going to these cities officials, the mayors, city councilmen, and ask them, hey, what do you need, right? What transpired? Do you need support with ensuring that y'all have sandbags to protect, the coast, right? Right outside of our district, we have San Francisco, we have Pacific, we have Half Moon Bay, and so all those cities was really affected. And then if you keep going down the coast, all the way down to San Diego, Highway 1, all those cities was affected, and we need to ensure that we are putting the plan in place. And I think those leaders should take the wheel, and we should learn from them and get those advice and create a great strategy for the future.
Okay. Now, when we get back to the healthcare part, and you were saying that healthcare is not being funded. So, does California have a conservative issue when it comes to the Affordable Health Care Act? Because with that being signed into law, and we got as many people as we have that's been afforded health care,
Mhm.
what is happening in California that's actually taking that away?
Yeah. So I think California is a big state, right? We have the largest population in the country, right? And so Affordable Healthcare Act really affected the state of California, and we ensure that everyone is have healthcare, right? In our state of California, and so I think that really in hindsight had, put a hold on our state budget, right? We just attempted to put forth a cow care plan to do, um, where the cow care plan will ensure that everyone in the state of California will have a plan. It's like pretty much like a universal health care, like Canada and other countries in Europe. But it didn't pass, right? It was a lot of issues with that plan. The oversight wouldn't allow for the state to have oversight of it. Um, the 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 real issue was the reimbursement. With the cow care plan, they will pretty much regulate the reimbursement funding of it, and which would entice a lot of these hospitals to belly up and leave, right? And so with the competition with the other states saying, "Hey, we can take Kaiser, we can take Sutter Health away from you," right? Um, a lot of those assembly members just couldn't risk it at that point, right? And that's not even include like the wait times or what have you. But I think that with the exhausting number of individuals that's inside of our state, that's coming inside of our state, really have exhausted our budget and foreseeing that budget, right? If we say that, hey, we're going to spend $4 billion, $5 billion on our healthcare budget, but we had increased the amount of individuals that was going to be on our Medi-Cal, and then on top of that, with inflation, that really, and hindered our hospitals to to put out reports. Outside of our district in Berkeley, Sutter Health stated that in 2020 and 2030 they have to shut down, which will be, exhaust our Sutter Health that's in and that's in Oakland, that's inside of our district, because Berkeley is right on the border of our district, right? And so we seeing the effects of the amount of people that we are supported with Medi-Cal, and we really need to ensure that we have a plan uh, to reduce our not reduce our the people that's on there, but to ensure that we have a balanced budget with our healthcare, right?
So I understand you want to increase the healthcare and the number of people that get the healthcare. And if I'm not mistaken, because I remember reading the story about Medi-Cal, and Medi-Cal was actually put in place supposedly when the Affordable Health Care Act was passed, that made healthcare affordable, to make it that much more affordable for people, especially out in California, because the cost of living is so high.
Hmm.
But that is why I'm asking the question, is that, for when you get into office, because it kind of looks like that there's a conservative approach that's still trying to poach and keep people off of healthcare, which is why these hospitals are complaining about funding. And they're complaining about funding is because they're not allowed to raise the prices like they used to. And so I think that is the reason why they're closing. Or is there something else that I'm missing in that formula?
Right. So just to recap on your question, you said that um, the reason why they are closing is because individuals are not allowed to receive health care, and
Those hospitals don't want to treat their patients at the affordable price for the Affordable Health Care Act, which is basically federal law that covers each and every state. And so you got some states that take that conservative approach, that they find a way to circumvent the law and kick people off of healthcare anyway. And so
Mhm.
it sounds like out there in California, because there are so many hospitals that are closing, they're closing because they are refusing to do what the law says they have to do. That's
Mhm.
why they're moving to other states.
Yeah.
That's my take. So
Yeah.
I mean, tell me if I miss anything there.
I mean that's definitely what, definitely what's going on. Definitely, you seeing individuals that hospitals that just with that's exactly what it is. The reimbursement, what I've been saying before, the reimbursement for them is not meeting their bottom line, and so they're saying, hey, we can't continue to be able to take this funding. Affordable Health Care Act, mandates that you treat everybody, and you take everybody. And so with that, a lot of businesses say, hey, we're going to leave. right? And so it's definitely, I mean, and affordable healthcare is across um, the country, right? Everybody has it. It's, I mean, it's on law, right? But the reimbursements, the amount of money they're being reimbursed, is different per state, and due to the amount of individuals we have on Medicare, they are able to negotiate, right? So the MOs, that's the pretty much the MOs is the middleman between the Medicare, um, the hospital, and the individual, right? And so the state, informs the MOs of how much money they're going to get per year per for supplying it, right? So each region has their own MO, right? And so when they go into negotiate it, the MO saying, hey, we can give you for if you guys saying $700 for to treat this surgery, give and take, we can only give you 500 of it, right? And so over time, you keep only getting 70% of your funding. How is you going to cover that, right? You're going to have to reduce, and then on top of that, you have to have you have staffing issues. Individuals want increase in the wage. We had COVID, a surge where we had to hire a lot of staff member, increase a lot of salaries, the cost of living, the inflation, and so they're covering so much. They're covering the maintenance of these facilities. They are covering the procedures. They're covering salaries. They're covering the safety, the procedures. They're covering everything, right? And so these hospitals, in order for them not to belly up, they have to make sure that they're just so they won't belly up. Some are leaving. Some are belly up. I think in LA, MLK bellied up, right? Was it MLK or the hospital before MLK? I can't remember, but in LA they experienced the same thing. A hospital said, "Hey, they was distracted out of their with the reimbursements, and they left, right?" And if you want, you can say it's like these hospitals are taking a conservative approach, but it's a business, right? When you look at a business, you can't, and I don't want to say we looking at a business because health should be equated across the board, right? No matter what. But we have to, one, as a state, find a way to make sure those prices are reduced for the hospitals, right? Making sure that the prices are reduced is making sure that we, work with the federal government, work with the states to make sure that the hospitals don't have to pay so much money for the procedure equipment that they have, making sure that they don't have to pay so much on the on their on the equipment that they have in, and the other items that they have to buy across the state. I mean, across their hospitals, and so they can reduce their budget, and so they can be able to afford to keep afloat. But a lot of these hospitals are finding it very difficult for all the changes and demands that they have, and it's unfortunate because you know we can't treat health as a business, and I don't want us to treat health as a business, but the hospital runs as a business, just like a lot of not-for-profits runs as a business, and so we have to treat it as such, and we have to be realistic because if we don't be realistic, we're going to continue to have more hospitals that close down in our state, and I don't want that.
Yeah, I don't think nobody wants that. And one last follow up to this is, can you tell us how does the funding in the state of California goes when it comes to, because it's divided in half as north and south. With you guys sharing the Bay Area with San Francisco, how does funding goes to the city of Oakland? Is it funded properly?
Yeah, so the state of California is I mean, you have the southern Bay, I mean Southern California and Northern California, but the state don't divide the budget. It's one state budget that the governor approves for the entire state of California, and so the funding is allocated appropriately, depending on your population and the need of your city and district, and the state assembly along with the Senate They their role is, and what my role is as a would be as state assembly, will be able to decrease taxes to support with managing the state budget, and then also and so with that, I will also lobby for community businesses, for corporations, and also citizens for funding for various resources we need inside of our district. And so that's how the state budget works. And then how we foresee it is off of taxes, right? And so the money generated from the state is based off of the employment training tax, the ETT, and so and then also the employment insurance, the UI, and so that's where we get our funding. And then we also get funding from federal government as well, and so and then it dispersed the funding accordingly within various departments. You have the education department, you have the public safety department, you have the transportation department, agriculture department, and they disperse it. And then they also have RFPs that provide resources to non-for-profits. Right now, the city of Oakland is in a $177 million deficit. That's inside of our district. Then we have Emeryville, that's in a $4 million deficit, which I believe they should be able to manage without increasing taxes. But Oakland, we are in a deficit due to businesses, and due to businesses not paying their taxes, and then to the public safety um, as a whole. So it's a lot of collective reasons in why we are in a deficit, but we have to ensure that we balance our budget in the next couple of years. And that's it. And by balancing it, we're going to have to make some tough decisions, right? That nobody want to make, right? And with that, that's going to be employment being cut. You seeing that right now in the city. They are talking about cutting employers. You're going to see schools being closed. You're going to be seeing teachers being fired. You're going to see cuts at every level, from state to city, from state district to city, across, because of the failed policies, and not being able to foresee this big deficit, right? It's $75 billion, right? We should have said somebody firing the alarm, and I'm the only candidate in this race right now, District 18, that will sound that alarm ahead of time. I've been sounding that alarm that it was coming, and I plan to make sure that we one, make the tough decisions with the cuts. Two, we have a plan to make sure that not only that we are making those cuts, but we are trying to make sure that individual that is being cut, they have a lifeline, so they won't go. Um, so they have a lifeline, so they won't not be able to, rejoin the community, right, in a different capacity. We need to make sure that we are informing the individual agencies, businesses, and community members of different avenues, of way and streams of making money and staying afloat, whatever advocacy is. And two, making sure that we stay on top of our budget and our spending, and then we also is continue to save our rainy day fund. They're in the process of trying to remove our rainy day fund that kept us afloat during COVID, and I think that would be a dumb idea. I definitely want to keep that rainy day fund, because that's what kept us afloat during COVID, and that's what's allowing us to not be able to increase taxes because of that rainy day fund. We are taking funding from that rainy day fund, and I think that's going to be the only lifeline that keeps the state of California from going deeper in debt.
Well, see, that's kind of like what my point was, is because you guys share the Bay Area with San Francisco. None of those things are happening in San Francisco. That's happening in Oakland because
Mm.
it's detrimental. When you go to the South, none of those issues are happening in San Diego like they're happening in Los Angeles, which is connecting the dot of Los Angeles and Oakland, not having all of its resources or what funding should be to keep those cities thriving and moving in a positive direction. Because it seems like to me, and so again, just make sure you help me out, is that between Los Angeles and Oakland, you have a higher population of Black and brown people, where you don't have that in either San Diego or San Francisco, which allows for a different cause. Does that sound about right?
You know, I want to say that, I can't agree. I mean, San Francisco right now is facing an $800 million deficit. Um, I know that all across the state of California, they having deficits. Google just announced that they going to be downsizing after their lease. They're going to be moving. It's a lot of tech jobs have relocated out of South Bay, as far as like San Jose, Mountain View, and so everybody is feeling it. And some's feeling it harder. San Francisco, they have a larger debt than us. They almost had $1 billion. They had $800 million in debt. They having staffing issues, right? They got $80 million in $80 of overtime that they pay in their police department. We got $35 million. I mean, their population is higher than ours. We have over 400,000 people. They have over 800,000 people. I think all the major cities in the state of California, if I'm not mistaken, is going through a little upside. And everybody needs leaders inside of their cities, inside of their districts, inside of the state assembly, inside of the Senate, that's willing to work together, and also in the governor's seat, that's willing to work together to make these tough decisions so we can get out of this crisis that we are in, and make sure that everybody balances the books and make California that state again where the land of opportunity and entrepreneurship.
What strategies do you propose to address homelessness and affordable housing challenges within your region?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think the first thing I would do for affordable housing is with SB 423. SB 423 is with the allocation of affordable housing. So all the new affordable housing that's being built across the state of California is only allocated 10% of their units to affordable housing, and the 90% of their units would be to a luxury or the luxury apartments or the style of apartment that they choose to build. The thing about that's alarming is that we have the highest population of homelessness in the state of California. And by doing so, we won't be really in taking attacking and try to reduce that population of homelessness in the state of California. I believe we need to we reduced it from 50 to 100%. I think it was too high, right? It really costs a lot of money. That really needed to change, because it do cost a lot of money to build homes. I mean, build apartments in the state of California. You got high building permits. You have environmental lawsuits that are going to happen. You have impact fees for every unit, and it's per unit, right? And so it's really affecting the cost of living, the cost of building. So 50 to 100% of apartment unit, a property owner is going to say, hey, this. And that's why you're seeing the low building in the state of California. And it's too low. We need to focus on 30% allocation to affordable housing, allowing for property owners to have 80% of the unit, and then that way they'll be able to receive a profit in a reasonable time. 12 to 15 years, being able to receive a profit, I believe, is reasonable. But having it to 10%, that's ridiculous. The next step, what I would do is start working on middle class Americans. It costs upwards right now over $200,000 to live in the Bay Area, give and take of where you at, and that's ridiculous. It costs over $900,000 to buy a home, medium standard, buy a home in Oakland, California, right? In District 18, it costs $900,000. That's the minimum home that was sold in this year, right? And so I just had a letter. It was a home just sold in my neighborhood for $1.6 million, right? And so we really have to make sure that middle class Americans can buy a home again. A building permit for a 1,500 square foot property just to build costs $393,000 building permit, not even putting hammer and nail yet. That's ridiculous. We need to slash that by 98%, making it only $1,000 for, I would say 99%, making it only $1,000 for individuals to be able to obtain a building permit. All across America, it's no more than $1,000. I don't know why, California, I don't know why in my district it costs so much. We need to stop that. The impact fees, is really hindering people from being able to obtain homes. It's costing upward of $1 million in fees to be able to build a home in my district, and I want to be able to eliminate those impact fees, those permits fees. Also, I believe we need to be able to have a rent cap in our state of California, at least for the next 5 to 10 years, and to ensure that individuals can be able to get an apartment, stay in an apartment until we build our way out, so we can be able to provide the American dream again for individuals to be able to buy, purchase homes. Um, and then finally, um, yeah, that's it. That's all it is. Oh, and finally, environmental lawsuits. I think we need to put a plan on environmental lawsuits for the next 5 to 10 years as well. An individual could just come out and say, "Hey, they're gonna be too loud," um, and then now you tied up in a lawsuit. The environmental lawsuits is really really killing us from building, and we need to put a stop to that as well. Well, not a stop, but a pause. We could come back to it later, but we got to pause it.
So, how are you going to implement this to the people in your district? And how are you going to get this information out so they can know before time what's taking place and what you're going to do about this?
Yeah, so I conducted town hall meetings, and I want to continue to conduct those town hall meetings to allow for individuals to come out and hear my plan, um, and so they can know exactly what I plan on doing. And then I also can get support, right? I think a lot of times individuals think, hey, we're going to go to get a guy elected. He's going to go up there. He's going to write these assembly bills, and then poof, it's going to happen, right? Our current my current colleague who holds the position right now, I believe she only has 6 bills that have been passed since her in her whole tenure since 2021, right? So we really, what that tells me, we really need to have that support. We really need to have that support from the community and to build that morale across the state of California, so we can push these assembly bills to the finish line and on the governor's desk.
So we can get a little bit more in depth about an issue that we discussed earlier. How do you plan to support small businesses and stimulate economic growth in your district?
Yeah. So my plan to be able to support small businesses is by 2 ways, right? One, well, 3 ways. One, the first thing, you can't have a society unless the city is safe, right? We have to make sure the city is safe. Downtown, we need to make sure the city is safe. Um, Not just downtown, all across the districts. The second thing, because if we all see, if people is not feeling safe, they're not going to shop, they're not going to go out, they're not going to spend dollars, and we need for them to feel safe and comfortable spending dollars instead of going elsewhere across the state of California. The second thing I want to do is create a revolving loan with businesses, corporate and major businesses and banks, so they can pour into a loan, and that cycle could continue to go, and and we can continue to ensure that businesses have that lifeline so they can be able to continue to function. The third would be to ensure that we have a referral process, right? A lot of times, our businesses are not meeting their quota for their bottom line per month is just because they don't have that resources outside into the community, right? They don't have that foot traffic. They got social media, but they don't have that big following. And right. And so the way we're going to be able to do that is by having everybody together, all the businesses working together to make sure everybody business is thriving. So, having those meetups with businesses so they can talk about their businesses, so they can share out about their businesses, so other business leaders can learn about their business, so they can share about their business. And then we could, while customers coming in, talking to them and saying, hey, I really like this dress, but, and then they see their husband right there. He's just filling in his thumbs, right? He not doing anything. We could say, hey, right down the street, I have a gentleman shop that he has some nice clothes. Maybe you want to go check that out right after this, or maybe while your wife continue to shop here, he could go down the street and be able to shop with them, right? And then vice versa, right? Or I know, right down the street is a good smoothie shop you want to go check out. So we have to have that referral process within businesses to be able to make sure that businesses are thriving. So
Have you been able to establish a really good working relationship with your local district office of the SBA?
um, I've been in communication with the SBA, um, but I'm continuing to work with all the chambers, and I want to continue to make sure that they know who I am, and I want to be able to earn their endorsement and their support, if that not anything else.
Okay. What measures will you take to ensure transparency and accountability in government operations?
Yeah, I honestly like the idea from Robert F. Kennedy the third by putting everything on the chain on the blocks. I think that just having the data accessible 24 hours a day about our spending, about our funds is needed, right? We are seeing some reports that's been coming out on about spending across the state of California with our nonprofits, um, and trying to hold them accountable. I think it needs to be live, to be streaming live, so all citizens can sound the alarm when they're seeing dollars not spent correctly, um, and really be able to hold people accountable. I think it's no other way for us to do it, if unless we have it streaming 24 hours, 7 days out the week, um, a day. That's the only way we're gonna do it.
In what ways will you advocate for marginalized communities and ensure their voices are heard in legislative decisions?
Definitely, as being a black man in this race, I definitely feel that um, we seeing that minorities in the state of California. And I mean, we are a minority. Just state the facts that black people in the state of California is a minority, um, all across the state, and we have limited access to our voice, right? And ensuring that one, we having those town hall meetings. I'm hearing from my peers and saying, hey, you know, um, they telling me, hey, we need more funding for infrastructure. We need more funding for schools in our district. We need more um, police officers, right? We need more accountability for our police officers. We need an oversight. Me listening to them, me taking that back to my peers in Sacramento and advocating for them is the way that minorities will be heard through me as a minority, especially as a black man, a minority, and in all levels in the state and in the country. I think that it would definitely go hand in hand with my candidacy and my approach and making sure that minorities have a voice inside of legislation.
So, how do you intend to collaborate with other political leaders to achieve bipartisan solutions for your state's challenges?
Um, I think also that one not partisan is why I chose to be independent, right? I'm glad that my party have realigned themselves. Um, but I chose to go independent because I saw across America, I saw in the state that we don't have that partisan right now in the state assembly, in the state senate, and in the governor's office is controlled by Democrats, right? And legislation is still great legislation still is not coming out of our state, right? So we need people that's independent, free thinkers that's going to make sure that hey, we could create a deal. I'm always about making a deal for the people, right? I take the top three things that my side, top 3 things on your side. What are the things you willing to compromise for this deal to be to go through for the people? Because it's not about me. I always think about it. It's always about the people. And I think that's what the legislators in the state, in the city, and in the federal government fail to realize. It's not about us. And our job is to be able to go and represent our districts and go and represent our constituents and be able to deliver. And it's not been happening, and I plan on doing it once elected.
Well, yeah, but see, just for clarification, I mean, like when I said I wanted to know if if you intend to collaborate, you
Yeah.
know, with those other leaders from a bipartisan perspective, meaning, that, Democrats, Republicans, and independents coming together. Are you going to be able to come together and work these issues out with these people in order to get your legislation passed?
Definitely. Right. That's what my plan is, right? Is to make a deal. That's the biggest thing, right? Making a deal. You taking your top 3, I'm taking my top 3. What is the top 3 I compromise, right? Give or take if that's what it is, right? I think that's the approach I want to take every time I'm challenged with collaborating. I also collaborating right now. I communicate with Republicans. Communicate with independents. I communicate with Democrats on my campaign trail. I just don't stick to one party. That's the biggest thing about being an independent. I have to be able to move and shake in the rooms, and I want to take that experience that I'm having right now on the campaign trail straight into Sacramento and to be able to collaborate with all parties to ensure that the people are represented and we are getting the policies passed that's going to affect them and make their lives better every day.
What steps will you take to address public safety concerns and promote community policing initiatives?
Definitely. First thing I want to do is with public safety concerns is getting rid of Prop 47, right? The safety concerns, these small businesses, Prop 47 allows up to $950. We also have a proposition that allows for individuals to be able to rob someone with a gun, and if it's not loaded, that gun charge can get dropped, right? And so a lot of people are scared. Like, hey, they're telling me they pointed a gun. There's no bullet in the chamber. There's no bullet in the magazine. The gun charge dropped, right? And they're going home, right? We need to be able to hold people accountable and rehabilitate them in the fashion that I spoke of earlier with true rehabilitation. But we have to hold people accountable. We don't need higher sentencing. We don't need extreme sentencing. We just need a few years on minor cases, up to 15 years, I believe, and in serious cases, so people can go back home. We need to be able to ensure that we're working with the community, right? And going old school, making sure that we have these community watch programs back into the community, making sure people really communicating with the police officers. Because I always tell people it's not just the police, right? It's us as well. And then also getting rid of the Mumford Act, right? The Mumford Act was racist when it was implemented, and so the Mumford Act prevents individuals be able to open carry. We already had it where it was illegal to be able to conceal carry. The Supreme Court in New York, they ruled that it was illegal, so we can conceal carry. But we have so many legislators that's infringing on our Second Amendment right. And I'm hearing outside. I just heard today that an individual was assaulted at the lake, and that young people was assaulted at the lake with a gun. And we are not able to obtain CCWs, right? And so we can't be able to protect ourselves in a blink of an eye. And then the police is taking 2 hours to get there because we defunded the police. I have to be able to get elected so we can, one, fund the police. Well, by funding the police, we can balance our budgets because, like I said earlier, we in Oakland right now, and in our district is paying so much money in overtime. It's ridiculous. Across the state, San Diego, $80 million. Oakland, San Francisco, $80 million. LA, $50 million a year. A year. That's ridiculous. If we staff people, the overtime will reduce. We have better equipment and staff, not overworked. that they have a fresh mind. They go home to their families. They're reset, and they're able to go back into the community and effectively affect change in a positive way. And those will be the steps that I take to make sure that our community is safe. And then also finally is making sure our schools is safe. The police have to be more involved in our school system, um, in a positive way, and expanding our police system. I think what we did was we took away for our police and we poured funding out in not for profits. We need to be able to expand our police, be able to find social workers in our police system, community leaders in our police system, and then that'll allow for the community to actually feel involved, to actually know these police officers, to actually be able to be one with the police and trust the police system and not separate it. When we defunded the police and put more funding into elsewhere to these other programs, what we did was we further separated ourselves from the police instead of coming together. And I want to be able to unify our communities and be able to employ those programs inside of the police system.
I want to ask you a follow up question on that because I've noticed that you have the really strong belief in the police department.
Mhm.
How have you been able to bridge that divide with your community and the police? Have you actually had a sit down with the police and the community and talk about some issues to be solved, or how did that work, or is that happening?
Yeah, so I mean, in my time, I was able to work with some great leaders in the police system and also into corrections. Right, I used to, um, and and with that, with my time working in the police system with those great leaders, I think that it allowed me to have a little trust. But I did go to school in Alabama. I went to Jacksonville State University. I did go live in Georgia. I lived in Atlanta, right? And I lived in Stockbridge, in South Atlanta, and I experienced, police brutality, and I've seen how police officers could be really detrimental to black and brown people, especially myself, and so my view on the police is if we do not engage in the police, if we are not involved with the police, it's going to continue in the way we are seeing all over the TV, right? If we saying, hey, we don't want police, what's going to happen is what happened in Oakland. The crime is going to go up. We're still going to say we don't like the police, and we are not going to get anywhere. Changing that narrative is the only way we're going to do is by being positive and working with them aggressively, supporting them, showing that we need them because we are a lot of the business owners, a lot of the homeowners, a lot of the renters, a lot of the people around our district. They want the police. When they get robbed, they call the police. When the business get broken, they call the police. When a car gets built and robbed, they call the police. The police time is being shortened, but we need to show them that we care about them. We need them. They are putting their lives on the line. All officers are not bad. I ran into a lot of great officers, right? Um, and they have a really tough job. They're experiencing some times where people are trying to shoot them, they try to kill them, and they're putting their life on the line to make sure we are safe, and they're risking their life and risking their time with being with their families overall. And so I want to thank them for all what they have done for our community, and separate them from the bad apples. We have to separate them from the bad police officers and ensure that we are continuing to work with them to identify those bad police officers, and separating them.
Okay, because I mean, like, so I mean, so is that plan still that you're going to have like a moment with your community where they're going to sit down and have chats with the police to get this trust and learn more about them?
Definitely, definitely. Over the time, I'm definitely going to be ensuring that we have those times to meet with the police, and not just and I think a lot of it is not just being inside of a room.
Mhm.
We got to meet the people where they at, right? And so we need, my plan is to be doing town halls all across the district in the community, right? No building, no wall. We're going to parks. We're going to the liquor stores, right? Meet us at the liquor store. Meet us at, outside the liquor store. We got a table. We're going to talk with the police officer. We got some problems. Let's talk. Meet us at the park. Meet us at, we got to meet people where they're at if we're going to be able to change the narrative.
I hear you. How will you prioritize funding for infrastructure development and transportation improvements within your district?
Yeah. And that's a huge issue, right? The infrastructure. I could tell you myself, I'd have ran into some potholes, and we don't got no snow. And I'm like, man, it's crazy. Like I'm from Detroit, and we had some serious potholes. That's because we got a whole bunch of snow, a whole bunch of salt going down, but we don't get snow, right? And I'm like, where is these potholes coming from? And they are big. Like, I mean, they are taking some people cars out the game, and so that's really a viable issue that should be addressed, right? And so ensuring that our infrastructure is handled correctly, right? I don't think one of the infrastructure we are trying to build is this light rail between LA and San Francisco, and it's costing us a lot of money. We are asking the federal government to pour in money for that. I think it's a great idea. We want to be on a global stage with China. China has some of the fastest uh, light rails in the world, right? But we don't have the funding right now. The federal government is funding two wars right now. Well, pretty much three, trying to come back. The Haiti situation, we are poor funding Israel and Ukraine, right? So the America, if America's going to be pouring funding for infrastructure, it shouldn't be going to a light rail at this moment. I think we need to pause on that. We need to focus on the viable issues, right? The current train systems that we have in the state of California, these roads, these dams, some of these dam infrastructure is not viable. We need to be able to build and refurbish those dams, and then we need to be able to revitalize these streams to be able to pour the water into the necessary areas like these farmers. They are paying some of the highest amount of money in water. If you want to know why a lot of your groceries is so high, it's because of the water. They have to pay so much in water bills, and I know our water bill at home is high in California, right? We are paying some of the most extreme water bills in the country. These farmers is paying that, and we need to be able to reduce that and help them out. And so, really, just building our way out of it, pouring the funding, and making our budget and government smaller so we can be able to really focus on the things that need to be funded.
Okay, and earlier we were talking about the climate change situation.
Mhm.
Can you share your plans for promoting renewable energy sources and combating climate change on a local level?
Yeah. And so, with renewable energy sources, I think that it's been really putting a footprint inside of society in California, and we really going to have to sit down and make some tough decisions. And I think we already have done that, right? California oil has rigs had, and the gas is some of the most well, just the guidelines on the oil rigs is some of the most the strict in the country, right? We've been doing that. We've been we the governor said in 2030 we won't be selling any more gas vehicles in the state of California, right? We just had diesel hydrogen the first diesel hydrogen station in the country out here. So we've been putting in the work as far as the ocean. We've been protecting our ocean by ensuring that we don't make our state be like a Florida with a lot of tourist attractions to protect the shoreline. So we've been really, really, really focusing on that and really trying to make sure that we reduce the population and prevent the global warming in our state. I think that what we need to do also by easing the tension is, and I don't know if this where you were going with as far as like the amount of funding it costs because it's costing a lot of money to do it, and it's really is hurting the individual citizens in the state of California and in my district pockets every day. And so I think we need to really look into cost efficient ways to go about doing it. And I think that the entrepreneur that's in Georgia that know how to convert cars into from gas cars into electric cars will be the best and fastest way to do such a thing. And I definitely want to be able to um, provide funding in a way that we did in the Industrial Revolution, where we was able to say, hey, we want to be able to back Ford, we want to be able to back GM, we want to be able to back Chrysler, and they poured that funding in the Industrial Revolution. And I think that's why Lincoln was so praised, because he turned the country into a global powerhouse. And in order for us to turn America into a global powerhouse and to be able to fight back into these other countries and say, hey, we are the leading country again. We need to be able to take the talent all across the country, not just in California, but we need to, pour into other states and other entrepreneurs and other inventors and say, hey, come to California. Let's build. And let's show America. Let's show the world who we are.
So it sounds like you're saying that to find your resources around the country and use them in order to create this change and this offset.
Yeah, definitely. Um, Definitely. That was the only way. Um, that was the only way the Industrial Revolution was able to happen, and that's the only way this revolution is going to happen. I would say the electric energy is going to happen. I think we are doing a great job with solar panels. The state has been given paying for homes to be able to um, put solar panels onto their home, and it's really been effective as far as like um, making sure that we reduce the cost of our PG&E bill. I don't know if you heard our PG&E bills has been through the roof. Um, and it's really been effective with preventing fires, right? Because of PG&E, I think it was 2021, 2022, we had the record breaking fires across the state, right? All through the state of California, northern, southern California. And so these municipalities are really doing a lot to be able to stop the fire, stop the pollution, the burning. It's putting really a harsh footprint into our air population and into our environment, right? And so we need to make sure that we are continue to aggressively put panels on the homes and preventing our usage of the wireless that's across the Bay Area. And then also, as far as our gas, we need to be able to convert these cars from gas to electric. People can't afford to buy. The average citizen in California can't afford to go buy a new car. You know, we can't afford to go, purchase and two cars at that. A man and a woman is married. We can't afford to be able to buy, two cars at $50,000 a piece or $40,000 a piece out here. And so we need to be able to think and strategize about how we're going to do it. And I think by converting it and the reduced price, we'll definitely make sure that we can um, aggressively be able to change our dynamic as far as like the pollution with gas.
What initiatives do you propose to improve access to quality health care and mental health services for residents?
Yeah, with healthcare, I definitely believe the initiative to be able to increase the reimbursement is on the forefront. We have to create a plan. I think um, uh, um, Cal Care is a great idea. We just have to be able to strategize, and I plan to do that. I believe universal health care is essential. And I think the only way we're going to do that is we have to make our government smaller so we can be able to, um, with funding, right? Because California, we fund a lot of programming in the state of California, and we need to be able to strategize about where we plan our funding first, right? I believe in if we don't take care of home first, we can't go outside and take care of the other things. And so created a plan to ensure an assembly bill to ensure that one and everybody has access to health care. Um, and the funding will come from the state budget. Also, it will come from sponsor companies that will support our now bill that will allow for individuals to be for immigrants to be to receive health care. I believe that we need, if the immigrants is coming to America to work, we need.
Let me ask you. Let me ask you something to kind of like, so we can actually directly focus on, the initiatives. So, like, let's just say this: if have you and your team thought about, with not just Cal Care, but of course, with the exchange that is from the the actual monies that each state has to put into the pot via the Affordable Health Care Act that allows states to go into the exchange. So once they go into the exchange, and some people call it Medicaid, some people call it Medicare, but that's in conjunction with the Cal Care. Have you and your team thought about maybe in what this exchange is supposed to be? Because as you mentioned, you guys are the largest state in the union. And so you guys provide more money back to the federal government than any other state. Okay.
Definitely.
And so with you guys going into that exchange for the Medicaid, Medicare program and creating Cal Care, if they work together in conjunction, since you guys are in the exchange, wouldn't that make it a whole lot easier for the healthcare of each and every individual? In order to receive healthcare and not have to worry about a bill.
Yeah, I think definitely it does help, but we have MOs, right? And so we have to pay the MOs in that middle conjunction. That's one of the great things about CalCare. What it had done, it allows for it to do just that. What you're saying right now, for us to utilize uh, um, Medicare and also Medi-Cal to be able to reduce a lot of funding, and that's what just was proposed, and that's what's implemented to be able to soften and provide more funding for the state of California hospitals to receive funding to soften their blows, and then we also provided a loan, $100 million of loans, so they can be able to at a 0% rate, so they can be able to pay it back effectively without having to pay back any interest. But I definitely feel like that is correct, right? And that's what that's what CalCal was going to do. It's just figuring out the complexity of that, right? And the way that it'd be favorable for all legislators to feel comfortable with signing.
Okay.
Mhm.
How will you work to reform your education system and ensure equal opportunities for all students?
Yes, definitely. So making sure that one, we have to make sure that class sizes, well, not even going to class sizes, we have to make sure that all teachers are paid fairly. So I pose a assembly bill that will eliminate state taxes for all teachers so they can be able to afford to live here. And then so we can be able to recruit more teachers. We already are at a deficit of teachers. We are also struggling to meet the requirement for accredited teachers in the state of California. So definitely making sure that we attract teachers by putting $300-400 a paycheck inside of their back into their pockets so they can be able to afford to live in the state of California is essential. The next step is to make sure that we recruit students. I think the biggest conversation is that a lot of students are staying home and uh, they're being taught at home, right? They got a lot of online schooling that you have to compete with. Not just charter schools now; it's online schooling, right? A lot of kids are saying, "Hey, I don't feel comfortable." A lot of parents they don't feel comfortable. So we need to ensure that parents are comfortable enough to bring their kids to public schools. And a plan by doing that is to ensure that one, class sizes are smaller. We need to make sure that there's only 15 to 17 students in a class, that we are funding our schools officially, um, and ensuring that they have the adequate resources in every school, not just in privileged neighborhoods, but in every schools, right? And that's why we need leaders that's going to stand up and say, "Hey, we're going to fund a budget," right? When we are making that, and that's one of the roles that I'll be responsible for is allocating, being responsible for supporting and managing the budget. Is for me saying, "Hey, I don't agree with not fully funding our our school system," right? And then I would say with ensuring that the oversight of our school districts is appropriate, and that we have the adequate superintendents, state superintendents that's going to be running our school system to make the appropriate decisions, and then following up, right? As state leaders, we have to make sure that we following up. We visit the schools, we listening to the teachers, we listening to the parents, we come into the community and asking them what they need, so we can be able to advocate for them in the future. But I believe in the main issue right now in our school district is it's not just a bill. I don't think a bill or a policy would do it. It's all about that budget and making sure that we have legislators like myself is that's going to say, "Hey, I'm not leaving, and I'm not agreeing to a bill unless we fully fund our education." Because our honestly, the our children is our future, and what I mean by our children is our future. If we want to be a global market, we have to have educated students in our global school, and they have to be able to have high productivity. Right now, we are not able to do that, and our district, two out of 10 of a black and brown students is able to read on grade level. K through 12. That's ridiculous. We have to change it around. The only way we do is by reducing classes, funding in schools. And then finally, I want to create a program in a sense of it's called micro society. I attended it at my school in Detroit. We had that program, and it allows for students to actually have a society inside of our school. So with that, students are able to apply for jobs, to work on resumes, to be able to get hired. We had shops like Rainbow Cafe. We had a bank. We had a president. We voted on our president. We had police officers. We had jury. We had a judge. We had lawyers. We had every aspect of a society. We had a news show. We had every aspect, and also entrepreneurs. I was the first entrepreneur in our micro society. I watched teachers computers for like 40 micros, and at the end of the year we had an auction, and whoever saved the most was able to go away with big items like computers, bikes, or et cetera at the end of the year. And I think that brought upon us a lot of sense of one, saving. We knew the value of a dollar. Also, we was able to create a plan early on, and then also we was able to figure out issues that went on in our society. If somebody we had to change the deaths, we was able to figure out a plan about how we was going to police our policing system. We was able to create a plan about how we was going to move forward in the future, and our teachers and our principal allowed in a micro society, they allow for the students to lead, and that was really really great. And we had some really great leaders that came out of that. And I believe the state of California will be really uh, will really benefit from that. And then finally, just to throw out there, vocational training. My plan is to be able to have vocational training because all students, it's not going to go to college. But even if you go to college, it's really great for you to have a trade, plumbing, electric, you name it, culinary arts, CNA. We need all those essential jobs. And in order for our society to thrive, we need to make sure when they come out of high school, they can be ready to work if they don't plan to go to college. And that way it can reduce crime because one, you are able to get a job right out of college, or even entrepreneurship. If you say, "Hey, I want to open my own plumbing business, my own cosmetology," and so making sure that we have those vocational schools across the state is essential as well.
So let me do a follow up on that because I think it would be probably tell me if you think this is pretty simplified that and if there's a reformation that needs to be done is to re-implement affirmative action and DEI because apparently your education system out there seemed to have taken on a whole new look when the Supreme Court struck down affirmative action, and now they're attacking DEI, which means that anybody that does not look like a white person should not be in college or should not have a proper education. And so you guys have had an outstanding educational system up until that time that affirmative action was struck down. And so, when I think about when President Obama actually signed into law that trade schools would be free. And so, again, this is another thing that was just into the whole system. But now it seems like these educational systems are crumbling because they no longer want to give those opportunities to those that had them before. Now, that's just how I'm looking at it, and that's what I've seen. So, can you tell me, is that something that you and your team have thought about?
Yeah, we definitely have looked at different ways to be able to ensure that minority groups are able to obtain employment, to able to obtain not obtain employment. That means you have to obtain education, and I definitely believe that we should roll out a state-funded HBCU. I'm a big component a big supporter of HBCUs, and I know a lot of individuals out here they go to black colleges because they can't get into um, UC Berkeley, they can't get into a Stanford, they can't get into UCLA, they can't get into USC. Those populations had is between 3%, right, at the most, right, at those UC schools, even the state schools, San Francisco State, East Bay. You're seeing low population of the black population there as well, and so a state funded HBCU. I mean, we have over 2 million black people. A state funded HBCU would be just right for the state of California. We just seen something presidential with Sacramento State, where the president has a black union for their population. But I think we need to go a step further, right? Because eventually, if God forbid he's not present there, he's not working there, they need to reduce funding. God forbid if a donor say, "Hey, we don't approve of that," or what have you, there's a protest or a lawsuit that might partake because of individuals saying that they are not feeling that it's not inclusive, then I think that is going to be a struggle. And I think the only way we're able to do it, have a HBCU. It's not through the state initially. I'm a supporter with it. I definitely want to pass it, but I don't think it would go over well in the state assembly or through the state senate. I think the only way we'd be able to have a HBCU is we go through the church. I believe the AME Church, the CME Church in the South, they're really big supporters of education. If you look at their budgets, those two churches alone are spending 30, 40, 50% of their budget in higher education. Well, not even higher education, secondary education. I think, I've been really just trying to put the key people together with HBCU uh, regarding HBCU education in the state of California, San Francisco. They have a hybrid program where they're having some students. It's kind of like a study abroad program they have in where it's like HBCU students coming here and they can apply and take classes at SF State or SF, San Francisco University. But as a in the grand scheme of things, it's not that HBCU feel they don't feel protected. They don't feel, well, it's just starting this year, so I'm gonna say they don't feel protected, but they're not going to get that camaraderie. I think it's enough churches out here with enough funding to be able to put forth and enough buildings to put forth for HBCU. in a smaller scale, a private scale, then we can privatize it and we can control it and not have to worry about anyone having a lawsuit and it being tied up in court because affirmative action is out due to the Supreme Court. So it would be very difficult to say, hey, in a state, we want to get rid of affirmative action um, in the state, right? I mean, you can. I mean, we can possibly find a loophole way to go through it, but initially, all in all, I think the only way, especially with us having a $75 billion deficit, the only way we have to be able to do it is we get the churches involved, and we fund our own the black churches involved, and we fund our own HBCU.
I understand that very much. And, and I know that this is probably an issue that you and your team are probably going to have to work a long time at. But, I mean, if my tax dollars are paying into the education system, but you got schools like USC and UCLA that are trying to keep me out, and it's national news for what they did, and nobody was held accountable for the actions of them attacking the students, them locking students out the school, and just refusing to actually teach them. So I think that's something that needs to kind of like, that's one of the things that I know that's going to be pretty big, but it's not just out in California. That's all over the country. And so again, like I said, the whole country is unraveling because we have a justice system that's showing is rearing its ugly head. And it is saying this one thing. If you are not a white person, you are not going to get the opportunity that you deserve. You're not going to get it. And
Yeah.
so I think that's a problem on its own. And that's something that I think not just for you that's getting ready to come into the California Assembly, but I think for many people that are running for all these many different seats around the country have got to address this issue and they've got to face it head on. That's going to be a tough issue for you. I know it is. But I just wanted to ask that question because, it's important to just think about that. How do you think your constituents feel like, that since they're paying tax dollars like everybody else, but they're not afforded their same opportunity?
Yeah, definitely. Honestly, I'm really as an advocate for a state HBCU. I think that would solve the issue because I know that the let's just be frank, right? You trying to go into UC Berkeley, they out of undergrad, they want a 3.9 GPA. You want to go into USC, they want a 3.8 GPA. You want to go to UCLA, they want a 3.9 GPA. You want to go to majority of schools in California, they want a 3.0 or up, and that's just at the state level, right? And then once you go into the UCs, UC Davis, and all these other schools, they want 3.4s, 3.5s, 3.6, etc. Right? And so we got our black population and our brown population. They growing up in urban ghettos. I mean, not urban ghettos, but hyper ghettos. Don't keep saying urban ghettos, but hyper ghettos, where we're just seeing that a lot of these schools are being closed down. They packed in schools. If they not packed in schools, they don't have the resources. Um, and so what happens there is that these individuals can't compete on the level to get into the schools. And some of these schools are, saying that, hey, the SAT scores might not, count as much, or, we might let you do a letter to help support you from getting into some of these schools. But ultimately, a lot of these individuals, not because they can't compete, right? Because they are not smart enough, right? Because, I was fortunate enough to have a second chance. I went to school uh, and I had a 1.9 out of high school, and I graduated with 2 degrees out of Jacksonville State University. I was very blessed and fortunate to be able to do so. But a lot of people don't have that opportunity. A lot of people don't have that chance, right, to be able to do that. And Jacksonville don't even enroll people with a 1.9 GPA. They roll people up their GPA, but they really based off of their SAT scores. You have to have, I believe, a 20 to get inside of into Jacksonville State. So it's really, really imperative that one, we are making sure we start from the beginning, getting our kids prepared to be able to go into these schools. Because right now, and I'm just attacking right now, right now, with affirmative action being gone, they are not protected as far as being able to get in school. So we need to be able to ensure that we are supporting, we are pouring into our children with that plan. And I plan on making sure that I continue to be in these schools and ensuring that I'm, providing some type of resources or some type of training for these kids so they can be able to compete on that level. The second thing we need to make sure that we do for as far as competing, as far as affirmative action concerned, is help me on the state level with fighting back, right? Being able to find, different avenues for our black students and brown students to be able to enter into these schools. And if not enter into these schools, be able to find schools outside of the state of California and then transfer in or find the different ways as far as community college. In California, community college is free up to next year, right? So a lot of individual students may have benefited on going to community college first and then transferring into a 4 year college. And that's a great avenue initially at first. So hopefully I'll be able to vote to expand that free, education at community college, ensure that they have that support and get ready to compete so they can be able to go into a Cal or UC or even state level schools. And then when that time comes, on a federal level, when they be able to reverse the affirmative action being ready on the state level, because California was the first state in the union to be able to get rid of the affirmative action, is to say, hey, I want to reverse affirmative action to make sure that we are able to, you know, right the harm that happened to our community and continue to happen to our community and give them opportunity so the next generation can be able to be on the playing field. But to be, because affirmative action was only for the last 50 years in general and then last that long in California. But even with us lasting as long as they did, and then they also gave extension to it in the federal league because it wasn't supposed to never last forever. Uh, the data did show that we actually came out of that hole and that harm that was done to our community as far as the education. And so making sure that we hold our constituents accountable to making sure that they have that education is key.
Okay, what specific policies do you support to protect and preserve our natural resources and wildlife habitats?
Yeah, I think that federally, as far as the state of California, a lot of our national resources, our national forces is funded through the federal government. Um, so you got Yosemite National Forest. You have a lot of national forests and wildlife that is protected through the federal government. So a lot of our wildlife is supported by federal dollars, but I definitely continue just to aid our federal government as appropriately as we can in protecting our wildlife. But that's more of a federal issue.
Okay. What measures will you take to address racial inequality and promote social justice in your community?
Yeah, um, I think that's a huge question, right? Racial injustice. I mean, because that happens everywhere as far as black, white, woman, um, um, gender, and when it comes to equality, sexuality. And I think that we just have to continue to advocate for progressive um, equality rights as far as race, gender, to ensure that they have an even playing field on in society, right? And I think one of the real issue right now in California is employment. I think a lot of the black community don't feel protected at their employment, especially in Silicon Valley. and just making sure that they are protected, right? And I think one of the things about making sure that they are protected is ensuring that they have funding to be able to create black-owned corporations, right? Silicon Valley don't have enough black-owned corporations, and that's the huge issue. Um, and we need to fund it, right? And so I think that revolving loan um, and will allow for us to be able to fund black and brown corporations in Silicon Valley in the Bay Area. But that would be the true um, way we could do it. So providing grants, providing funding to black entrepreneurs so they could be able to build um, businesses and corporations inside of Silicon Valley that competes with all the other corporations. We have Robert Smith. He's one of the big black billionaires that's in America, and he has a, um, a office here in San Francisco and in Oakland. I believe it's 1111 Broadway Street. That's where he's located. But I believe that's like the only black billionaire in Silicon Valley. I might be mistaken, but I think that's the only black billionaire in Silicon Valley. We need more. We need more black entrepreneurs in tech. He's a tech business entrepreneur, and we need to be able to support them.
Okay. So where can voters find more information about your policy proposals and campaign events?
Yeah, you can go on my website at www. Dot Andre Andre Sanford Sandford for assembly.com.
Okay. And so if people wanted to contact you and ask you questions or to get information from you, is that also the same place where they should go, or is there another contact?
Definitely. You can go on my website and I have my contact information. I have my email. My email is Andre Sanford for assembly at gmail.com. And then my phone number is right there below as well, 510-299-8459. And if you call me anytime, I'll be able to answer and support you.
So, in closing, is there anything you like to have your constituents know what they should be ready for, what you need from them, what you're going to be getting out to them in closing? Is there anything you want to get say to them?
Yeah. So in closing, I want to just thank God for allowing me to come on your show. Thank my wife and my mother and my family, um, and I just want to be able to just thank everybody who came on the show today to hear from me. I really appreciate you from listening out. And then I definitely need support because the campaign is not free. I've been funding my campaign 100% on my own. Um, well, not 100%. I've been having some grassroots donors, but I definitely need donors to continue this campaign. We need to be able to buy signs. We need to be able to pay for texting. We need to be able to pay for campaign ads and media boosting on all social platforms. So I definitely need you to donate 5, 10, 20, 30, 50, $100 or more if you can. And if you would like to do a reoccurring once a month, whatever your donation, whatever how big or small it is. And if you can't donate at this time, I know how hard it is and in America right now in California. And so definitely just appreciate your support. Go follow me on my social media. Go visit my website, and I greatly appreciate you all.
Well, ladies and gentlemen, you've just heard Mr. Andre Sandford give you guys his platform. We are supporting him, and we need all of the support to ensure that this young man wins that seat in District 18 in the California Assembly.
That's
Please
right.
follow him. Please vote when you need to vote, ladies and gentlemen. Do not wait around and just think about it or whatever have you. Go vote.
November the
Please
12th.
vote.
Yes.
November 5th.
Yeah. But actually, it's November the 5th, but October the 7th, the absentee ballots will be mailed out to all of my district members. So October the 7th, that's when the date of election starts. So once the absentee ballot come in, vote Andre Sandford. Vote Andre Sandford. If you go in on day of election, vote Andre Sandford. We really need change in our assembly.
So thank you all. Please have a good night. Thank you, Mr. Sanford, for blessing us with your presence. And we definitely are pulling for you to win that election. I'm confident that you're going to win. So good luck to you. And thank you all for joining us tonight. For those that watched on the YouTube channel, I would appreciate if you all would please hit the subscription button and also hit the notification button in case there's any shows that you miss, that you're able to get those shows whenever you want to look at them. You all have a good night, and we will see you all tomorrow.